Sweet.
I cannot be responsible for broken lenses. The original house was just this part here. We call it the stone room, and the stone part was the original house, and then the porch was on the back, and that became a kitchen. And in 1948, they built onto this, made the kitchen better. My room was behind this glass here, and the also was what my dad built onto the store, because it was originally just for the V part of the roof is over there. And
So this, and these rooms up in behind were also added at that time?
yes,
48?
yeah. The main bedroom was back there, and then that was the first. We had an outside toilet and shower. That was water, but the toilet and bath moved into the inside in about 1948. And, so it was quite different. We had this was called the piano room because we had an upright piano in the corner of it. And a guy by the name of Fleetwood Garner bought this property quite a few years ago. So everything that's in here, pictures, furniture, all of that stuff is that family's stuff, has nothing to do with me. And they added another bathroom here. There used to be a bathroom when I was here. But my dad, his brother, sister, his mother, and her brother came up from Missouri in 1928. And my dad and his brother bought the store and the property in '36. And he ended up buying his brother out a couple of years later. And my dad ran the store and stuff until early '60s, about there. He closed it down. And I was here until 73. Well, actually, I got married in '61, so I had my own place to live. And but I was in Borego full time through '73, and then I've been down here everywhere. I don't do summers anymore because it makes me grumpy. But you know, I sure enjoy the winters. I feel very lucky to spend time here still, and I really enjoyed growing up here. Rode a bicycle to school. It was 3 miles. My first, second, and third grade was a one-room schoolhouse, and all 8 grades were in the one room. And then in '47, '48, they started adding to the school. And then eventually, the old schoolhouse was a parts house up at the mobile station, which is JT Tire. And somebody broke in one night, set it on fire, so that building's gone. Nobody made any measurements of it or anything else. It's just gone. But kind of too bad to lose all of that. But my 4 years of high school was in Julian, and we were bused from here to there. And the amazing part is, from the early '40s through '64 or '5, when they finally put a high school in down here, there was no accident. Nobody got hurt. Bus broke down a few times, but nobody got hurt. So we were very lucky because that was a hell of a ride.
Jeez, I can imagine.
There wasn't anything about it that was fun. But all in all, I really feel very blessed to be down here in the wintertime. I like it. I enjoy it. I like to participate in different things during the season there. In 2021, I published my first book. I've got a few copies out there in the car, if anybody's interested. And I've got 2 more books I'm hoping to get published end of this year, beginning of next year, something like that. But I'm in the middle of changing publishers and going over my web page and stuff. Eventually, the book will just be available online. But for now, it's a little sketchy. But
What's the name of the first book?
I worked for the Borego Sun for 8 years, and I published 100 columns of Borego and surrounding areas. And I had 2 columns. One was called Henry the Truck, which is my 1950 Ford panel truck I've driven for 65 years. And this is the first year the truck hasn't been here. But it's sick. Yeah, I got to get it fixed. But I've driven the truck for 65 years and had a lot of fun with it, put over 1 million miles on it. And I had a column called Hymn to the Truck, which was about vintage cars. I used to have 60 some odd vintage cars off to the north here when I was a kid. And we had our own wrecking yard because that's how you kept your cars running. You might put a generator off of a Plymouth on a Ford or whatever. We had to make the brackets and stuff like that. So that was what my dad taught me how to do. And he had a 35 Ford. I remember 5 years of age helping lap in the valves and stuff on that flathead when he took it all apart. And so I was around old cars and stuff all my life and learned to enjoy it. However, as time went on, it got less fun as years went on. I ran 10 used motors into the ground over the first 40 years of my panel truck. In 2003, I put a brand new crate motor in it, and that motor's got 175,000 on it, but it purrs like a kitten and runs quite well. And I have a lot of fun with it. I've even lived in the truck on occasion over the years when things were a little snug. But it's been a fun life. I've enjoyed it a lot. I also got into ham radio. I have a lot of fun with that. I have a lot of good friends on that.
The name of your book, that's all you were.
The name of the book, yeah. Well, one of the two columns I had was Henry the Truck, which was about vintage cars. And then I had another column called Denny's Desk. And I signed those columns at the end of each column. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So that's the name of the book. So there's only about 300 different books with the same title on Amazon. But and it's also on Amazon, but I don't recommend it because the quality of the book that Amazon gives you is junk. It's horrible. But I'm hoping to get this new publisher going and get this going online and everything. But I got 20 some odd books left is all I've got left. But I've got a few of those. And I sell a signed copy for $20. And I haven't had anybody get too mad at me yet so far. I'll help any of you with the big words, if you know what I mean. But it all works out.
I have a question about the what looks to be a pool or a in the
Yeah,
back.
that would be designated as a reservoir, and they had the land all graded out back to do irrigation, and that's what the reservoir was for. But from early 28 on, nobody ever grew anything back there. My dad never did. He wasn't a farmer, didn't want to be one. So it was just used like for a duck pond and a swimming pool. Local people would come here and put their feet in the water to cool off in the summertime. So this was just kind of a gathering place.
Oh,
So between the general store and the pond and all that stuff, that was how. So. The interesting thing was in the summer, especially, you look out there at the pond and there would be sidewinders, king snakes, cottontails, foxes, all kinds of coyotes. But it was the truce for all the animals. Everybody come get a drink. If they were going to eat each other, they'd do it at a later date or somewhere else. So it was kind of a king's act while they were here. So I always thought that was interesting that it was a natural truce that all the animals had and would drink water and participate, what have you.
Denny, can you tell about how the mail came from here and
Yeah,
things for the store?
The mail came out of Julian, and in fact, to get mail here, your address was Star Route, Julian, California. And then my dad had a post office here, and 50 to 100 mailboxes, and he would put mail out in the boxes, and people would come by and get their mail. Then in the mid-50s or so, when they basically put the circle and everything up out there, it all moved up to the Christmas circle area. So that was two different things. One of the things the people come down here, Bernan, Kurtz, and DeGiorgio were the ones that did the original subdivision down here. And they thought that Borrego was just kind of plain Jane, and it was Spanish. Well, actually, what happened was in the Indian tribes and stuff, if you couldn't behave yourself and follow the rules, the elders met with you and they would tell you, you know, you're being a jerk and we don't like it. So here's a day's supply of food. See ya. So all the tribes they had around here, there was quite a few, and every time they'd go somewhere to establish a place for them, one of the other tribes would say, no, this is our winter grounds, this is our summer grounds, keep going. And they got down here and nobody bothered them. So the Indians looked around and they said Borrego, and it was Borego. And Borrego was Indian for this is the end of the trail, it's home, it's where we've been looking for. So that's how Borrego came to be. And then when Kurtz and DeGiorgio started the other subdivision, or the subdivision, they added 2 R's to make it Spanish because they thought that was more romantic. And they added Springs, hoping that they could shirttail off of Palm Springs. So Palm Springs, Borrego Springs, and you hold your little finger out and you drink teacup. And the first thing people ask when they come down there is, where's the springs? Well, there never was any. So the trouble with telling a lie is you have to tell 2 more to cover the first 2 lies. And but it is what it is. My dad would never talk. If you mentioned the 2R spelling, my dad wouldn't even talk to you. But I've been here long enough. Both places exist. Both places actually have a history. There's a thing on Coyote Mountain. It's called the Indian Maiden, or newbies and stuff. They refer to it as Deanza's Angel. And then there's the mountain to the west. It's called Chief Rain in the Face. He's got a headdress. He's looking straight up. And there again, there's people that refer to that as Indian Head. And I've over the years, I would take the time to explain to somebody. I'd hear them calling it Indian Head. So I would tell them the Indian story and why it was called Chief Rain in the Face. And there was a fair amount of people that would look at me when I was done and say, well, it's interesting, but I'm just going to call it Indian Head. And I never had an answer for them, but I do now. When I tell that and they say that, I just look at them and say, well, that's not a problem. We just refer to you as Dickhead. Which is kind of how I feel about it, but you know, it's an interesting history, and most of the people that the history is explained to them, they look at Chief Rain in the Face and get an entirely different meaning out of it, and it means a lot more to them. And whether you refer to Borrego as Borrego or Borrego Springs doesn't hurt my feelings in any way, shape, or form. But I have found that the majority of people, when they learn both histories, they pick the Indian history to begin with, and that's the way it should be. But you don't have to. And you can refer to Chief Rain in the Face as Indian Head, but you know what my thoughts are on that.
You, the person in that picture right above you that says, where it says Borrego Valley PO. This,
The guy with the hat?
this,
Yeah. It might be, but I can't tell in the picture. It could be my dad in there.
okay.
I've seen a picture in the Borrego Sun about the old Borrego store and stuff. It has nothing to do with the Borrego store or anybody else. I don't know where that picture came from. So it's interesting. But like I say, I think it's important to have and know both histories of Borrego and Borrego Springs. I personally like Borrego, but there's a lot of people that like to refer to it as Borrego Springs, and that's absolutely fine. But there are 2 histories, and it's your choice to use whichever one you want.
So Denny, is it okay if people walk around here?
Sure.
And this is the original house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we call that the stone room, and then where the kitchen is, that used to be a porch, but we used it as a kitchen for many, many years or so.
And every once in a while, the Garner family does come back here
They
for
do,
a
yes.
wedding or
Yep.
something. They-
Ah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but, yeah, feel free
Thanks,
to
Denny.
walk around and
Yeah, just
talk
walk
to
around.
Denny.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, just ask me.
Right on.
Now, this building there in that picture, this is, is that